Hi everyone, sorry it's a bit wonky if it is. This is one that I've tried recording this tutorial quite a few times now. I'm sorry it's so late. It's been hard to find a decent location, the weather's been shit, and really I kind of need a cameraman so that we can make sure that you get the the details in the screen. So this is going to be about wrist rolls and wrist wraps and the difference between them. So what you're going to learn is this and also the half wrist wraps, which is where we're going to start. Before you start on this tutorial, you need to already really be pretty good with the bounces at least, and you should be able to do figure of eights both upwards facing and downwards. Downwards is going to be where we start, so I want you to do that move. Exactly what I'm doing. It's just downward strokes like so, okay, and you can feel the momentum on each side flicking upwards, and we're going to use that momentum to do that. Okay, so in front of the camera I'll just show you what I did. I'm holding it like so. What did I call this before? Front grip. Yeah, that would be reverse grip. Okay, so reverse grip, for those of you who haven't seen the first video, reverse grip is when your thumb is facing away from the middle, and front grip is when your thumb is facing the chain. Okay, so in front grip, nice downward X's like so, and while you're doing that I'll just turn sideways so that you can see. As it flicks round, I'm going to leave my wrist where it is. Did you see that? And the momentum carried it over. Okay. So this is easiest to practice just one at a time, really. Do one that way and one that way, like so. One up, one down. One up, one down. And don't forget to practice with both hands. It's kind of important to try to keep up, really, you know, let the left hand have as much chance at learning how to do it as the right hand. Don't think that just because you can do it in your right hand that your left hand will be able to do it or something, you know. Just practice, practice, practice. Okay, so once you've got that kind of thing going, you can bring in passes here. You can bring in a pass there, and that's kind of adapted from staff. That's a staff style pass, a freestyle, you know, staff when they're doing contact staff and things like that. That's how that starts. So you can just bring that in. Doing the figure of eights is a good way of making sure that you go one side and the other side. Getting a nice routine, it's good to practice. And also it'll lead up to being able to do a wrist roll there and going round and back again. You see, you can do it all through this half wrist roll. This is where it begins. Okay, so that's a half wrist roll, and what happens in a half wrist roll, as you've noticed, is that the chain goes over the back of your hand, the hand grabs the second stick, and it always goes over the back of hand. So the half wrist roll the other way goes over the back of your hand like so. Okay, one way, other way, one way, the other way, always over the back of your hand. Okay, there's no half wrist roll there, that's a full wrist roll, because it's going all the way around your hand. Okay, so we're holding it in reverse grip, okay, and we're allowing the chain to wrap over the wrist, so it gets to this sort of position. And then basically we're releasing that one, the momentum's going to continue over, and when it looks good it kind of stays quite straight. And when you're just learning, don't worry if you get this kind of thing. This is the kind of move that's probably easier to understand what you're doing with a longer chain, but when you understand it, when you're getting good with it, you'll want a shorter chain so that you can keep that terminal, that centrifugal force, to keep the line nice and straight and fluid, like so. So all I'm doing there is I'm just flicking it over and catching it, flick and catch, and you catch it in the exact same position that you flicked it from, and therefore you can just keep going endlessly. And that's a full wrist roll. There's also an anti-roll, and the reason that you go forwards over your wrist is because when when that one gets released and this one comes in, you're cupping it in the bottom of your hand first, so your thumb has chance to release and grab. It releases this one, you see how it's in that position, it releases that, and then this comes up and it grabs it. Whereas an anti-spin is the opposite. You've got to how can I explain it? You've got to, if you did it like a normal a normal wrist roll, I can't even do an anti-spin. I don't really practice this one very much because I don't like it. If you just do it like a normal wrist roll, it comes up like a half thumb roll kind of thing. And what I found when I was practicing early on is that it was always coming the wrong side of my thumb, because my thumb wasn't releasing this in time, so it's coming up there like that, and then I haven't got a grab on it. You see, it's too far away. So you've got to release sooner with an anti-spin. It feels a bit weird. So obviously for beginners or anybody who's only just starting with these wrist rolls and things, learn the full wrist roll before you go anywhere near the anti-roll. It's just much more sensible. I see so many people who pick it up and try to spin it that way round first. I can't explain to you how much harder that is. It's wrong, because if you want to make a circle going that way, you should be using your left hand, you see. That's the way it works. And then you go into the right hand and you see that could go into an anti-spin, or it could go into a thumb roll, or it could just go into half wrist rolls. But really, you know, if I wanted a full wrist roll, I have to turn around, you see, and then bring it back that way and full wrist roll that side. Do you see how it all connects? Okay, so if you think that looks like magic from your perspective, basically if I'm spinning it this direction on this side, for me it's going clockwise, and to you it's going anti-clockwise. Okay, and then when I turn it to this side, now my wrist's still doing the same thing, and the circle to you, I assume, is still spinning the exact same direction, but to me it's turned around. From my perspective here in the middle, this is now going anti-clockwise, and that's the way spin works. That's how your X's happen, you see. It keeps the spin going, but obviously it applies the opposite force, because my wrist has also changed position, and it's my wrist applying the force. So to my wrist it also feels like the circle has turned round and gone the other way. That's muscle memory. So that's why I can do a full wrist roll on this side but only a half wrist roll on this side, and I can switch hands and do the exact opposite, you see, like so. Okay, so on to wrist wraps. A wrist roll, as I've explained, is a nice easy little flick like so, and don't worry if you have to go through this tutorial several times. I know I'm sort of rushing it, I'm going faster than you'd be able to pick it up, I'm sure, but you know, just keep watching and you'll get there, and eventually you'll be able to do this quite smoothly, and you should also be able to do the half wrist rolls without really having to think about it at this stage. Okay, it should just quite naturally flow like this. Okay, what I'm doing there is I'm flicking out and I'm applying force to this end, and this end is coming all the way round, and I'm using that to propel the nunchaku. Okay, so this hand, the right hand in this instance, but whichever hand you're using, this hand is going to flick and cause the momentum and wrap around itself and catch and continue. Okay, a wrist wrap, the force is applied from somewhere else. Okay, so, and it just goes around your wrist basically. You can do leg wraps, That was a terrible attempt. You can wrap it around your neck very similarly. It's just a wrap is when you apply force from a different place, okay, and it wraps like so. And the way that I like to do it, it does give it a bit of a double wrap, or not at all. Okay, and that was what I was talking about with the anti-spin really, because I'm placing it there, it wraps around the back of my thumb. Okay, so I'm just giving it time. I'm not doing very well with these wraps, am I? Maybe I'd be better doing it that side. No, maybe not. Okay, so that's a wrap. And if I just step back a bit, I'll try to do a leg one for you. My favourite leg wrap goes around the back and over like so. That's a leg wrap. So there you go, that's the difference between rolls and wraps. Wrist rolls, obviously everything can be done horizontally, you know. Wrist rolls are where you apply the force in the wrist and roll it around that same wrist. And a wrist wrap is where you apply it to something else. You can feel the difference because the muscles that I'm wrapping around have to do much less. It could be an inanimate object really. You could probably wrap it around a tree branch or a pole, somebody else's nunchaku, you know. It's all about understanding the force. When you not that kind of force. What I'm saying is, when you first start, you'll do a lot of what I was just doing then, because I'm a bit unpracticed at these. It's only just started to get nice weather. When you do your wraps, it'll be flicking off a lot of the time. That's not a problem. You'll get used to where to place it. So for me, with these ones, with the two links, I place the bottom end of my nunchaku on my wrist. This will change depending on your wrist length, on your chain length. Okay, so a longer chain, you would actually place the chain on the wrist. Okay, and the reason is that you want to create just enough space for that turn to occur. You're not really aiming at a specific part of your wrist. In the end of the day, you're aiming this part of this nunchaku into the hand that you're wrapping into, okay? Which is why I can do a double, because that first single just goes round into the right place but the wrong side of my thumb. So if I did it there, obviously if I did it on the back of my hand, you can see I'm just grabbing it like so. And that's a wrist wrap. That's a wrist wrap. Okay, nice and easy really. There's one there as well, but that's more of a pass. I mean, these things are so close to passes that I was going to do that tutorial as well at the same time. But I do want to do passing as a completely separate tutorial. So for now, just enjoy your wrist rolls and things, you know. And next lesson, I'll try and get passes involved. So we'll go to I don't know, maybe we'll start with that one and those ones, yeah, like that. Okay, so yeah, hit me up if you've got any questions. I'm sorry it was a pretty rushed tutorial. I'm not even sure if I caught the main bits on the camera, you see, so I've got to go back to my studio and watch it back and see what's worth keeping and what's no good, not going to help anyone. And obviously I dropped it a hell of a lot of times, so I'm sorry about that as well, you know. I'm sort of distracted, I guess. Woo. So as a bonus for getting this far through, I'll just show you how to do this one. Okay, so there's two different types of throw, which I'll go into in the throws and catches. There's the front grip throw and the reverse grip throw, and obviously if you're doing a full wrist roll, you're always going to be catching it in reverse grip. It's always going to be in reverse grip. So you've got to get used to this sort of flick like that, okay? So that's the first thing. Roll your hand around and flick, and catch, and when you catch, just let it spin a couple of times, get back into the wrist roll, roll it round and flick. Okay, now then, when you're doing your wrist roll, notice how little you really need your thumb. It sort of holds it in position for half a spin and then it does its own thing. Okay, so that half where you hold it in position is the half that's going to be in mid-air, and when you get to the push, that's where we're going to catch it. So roll round and flick and open hand. Keep your hand open and so. Okay, so as you catch it, you're just pushing a little bit and it's catching you, and it's just doing a wrist wrap really, as opposed to a roll. The air is wrapping the nunchuck around the hand. Have fun.